Hey, welcome to the Randy Karraker Show, and STL Sports Central is presented to you by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Our friend Brooke Grimsley is out on maternity leave. This is Matthew Rocchio in for Brooke, and we got a lot coming your way here as the Cardinals get ready to play the fourth and final game of their series against the Cubbies at 1:15. The Cardinals pitching Palante, and he'll be opposed by Shoto Imanaga. At some point during the course of this show, we will have the lineup for today's game, and we want to talk about that because last night the Cardinals lost 8-0. Ian Happ hitting the first pitch of the game off of Erick Fedde for a home run, and it went downhill from there. And as Ali said after the game, Ali Marmol, hey, it just wasn't Erick Fedde's day, and it really wasn't the Cardinals' day. This is one of those games, Matthew, where the old adage applies. You're going to win 60, you're going to lose 60, and this is one of the 60 that the Cardinals were going to lose.
Yeah, I just got to chalk that one up because that was a pretty rough game for the Cardinals. Don't want to see that ever again. And to Brendan Donovan's point, we're just going to ignore it. We're going to pretend like it didn't happen. We're just going to move on, head down, and away from it. And I think that's the best way to look at it because that was a bad throwaway game from the get-go. There might be we might have to talk about some actualities because the game did happen, and we now have 3 months of the season done for Erick Fedde, and half
a season. We played 81 games,
and 2 of those 3 months have been not great for Erick Fedde. And last night obviously wasn't great for him as well. Although, and then we do have some plaudits to throw out because John King might have saved the bullpen crucially for tonight as a combination of injuries and not mismanagement, but just the force of the things that are forced to happen because of management means that right now a lot of their arms are tied up in the minors, unable to rejoin them. So John King giving them 2 2/3 last night was monstrous for them to have a chance to still take a series 3-1.
And he has not had a great year, but he did have a bullpen session yesterday before the game. He was working out, and the Cardinals hopefully found something with him, and will get him back to being a reasonable performer. I'm always intrigued by expectation in baseball because Erick Fedde has a career earned run average of 4.73. I don't know what the expectations of a guy like that are. I expect him to have a 4.73 earned run average. He's outperforming that.
He actually is. Yes,
this year.
Yeah.
So I go into seasons, and as you know, we were just talking before we came on. I don't judge a player based on one game or a week or a month. I have a tendency to look at their career numbers, and generally they'll be around those career numbers. So when the season started, when a guy like Fedde has a 4.73 for his career, I say, that's kind of what I expect.
Yeah, that's completely fair. There's a reason in 2025 that you're making $8.5 million as a starting pitcher.
Right. And the league average is what? Almost $5 million.
Yeah, so you're just, you are what you are, and that's the fact. And then if we're being honest, because we're just talking about how there is no middle class, that average isn't indicative of what the average starting pitcher actually makes in Major League Baseball. I have a feeling that if you actually broke down to the guys who start like 25 plus games, the average salary would probably be a little bit higher than $5 million.
Yeah, a guy like Miles Michaelis is making what, 16, 17 this year. He's a middle of the rotation guy. Yes. Right. And that's kind of the going rate. The money is outrageous, but unless you're going to develop young pitchers, you're going to have to pay that price for a veteran starter.
Bill Downton, this is an interesting perspective that honestly, I don't know if this is a good way to look at things or just a healthy way to look at things. Last night on Cars 365, everyone was upset. Even if Fedde only gives up 1 run, we still lose. I guess that's a pretty healthy way to look at things last night. Yeah. Wow. I mean, you can't really get mad at Fedde. The offense did nothing. 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, the second time in a week that they've matched the strikeouts and hits total. They had 3-3 against the Reds earlier this week with strikeouts and hits. So not a great day from the offense again. And that again, I thought that was kind of expected. You're going up against a much better lefty.
Boyd's having a good year.
Your offense was outsized the first 2 games. That was kind of you're due for that one. That's just the other side of the coin flip. You keep calling heads, eventually it's going to land tails.
And let's be realistic here. You're going against a lefty, and your 2 young right-handed hitters are out. Granted, you had Arenado and Contreras available, but you didn't have Herrera, who is arguably your best hitter, and you didn't have Walker, who until he got hurt was rolling. And Walker suffered the appendicitis. You know, we got a chat yesterday, somebody wondering why they didn't see Walker, and it's because he was hurting, had the appendicitis, showed up at the ballpark yesterday, called him early and said, hey, I'm not feeling good. So they had him actually go through some drills, figured out it was appendicitis, not to the extent that they have to remove the appendix, no surgery, but he'll be down for about 5 days, probably have to go through. Now, they might send him down for a 5-day minor league rehab, and then Jordan Walker will be back.
Okay, two things. And I'm not saying you have the answer here. I just got to throw this question out. Why not just rip the damn thing out? He doesn't need it. None of us need it. If he's feeling the pain there, if he's got an acute appendicitis, why not just cut him open and rip the damn thing out?
I think they just wanted to avoid surgery and a more extended absence.
That's fair. But it does mean another, although it's shorter, it's retroactive to 2 days ago because he didn't play the 2 days prior. So still another gap for Jordan Walker, which means more chances for guys like Gorman and Burleson to continue extending everything we talked about yesterday. We just kind of got to throw it out of the window, because if those guys keep hitting, and again, we go back to Katie Woo's point on foul territory about the Cardinals, if they keep winning, needing to make a decision here, we're just getting to a point with Jordan Walker.
Ollie said they aren't there. Yesterday, Ollie said they aren't there, that when Walker comes back, he's going to get his runway. That's what this season is about. This season is about finding out what people can do over the course of 6 months.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Too.
Bill Dowden says with surgery, it could have been 6 weeks. Really? Just the incision and everything to heal up takes 6 weeks.
And one thing about
that's nuts.
Surgeries, and I have not had. Well, I guess I did have major surgery. I had quadruple bypass one time. But then I had both of my wrists done too because I fell off a ladder.
Unbelievable.
And one thing that I know from my personal experience, once you get cut on, you're never the same. Once you have surgery, that part of your body is never going to be the same. So I would guess if you're in the shoes of Jordan Walker, you say, you know what? Yeah, I really don't want to be in that position where I'm getting cut on. Chris Widener, go Cardinals. Murday happens.
Meredith? I think that's Spanish for shit.
Oh, okay, good. Concerned with Jordan, yeah. Hoping he figures this MLB batting thing out. French. Hey, I hope he figures the MLB health thing out.
I'm a dumbass. I'm sorry. Meredith is French. Is French for shit. I don't know why I said Spanish. God, I'm an idiot.
That's okay. I didn't know. I didn't know the word.
Sorry. Yes, if we want to talk about the tangible things we've seen with Jordan, I understand why people are worried. I'm just, and I believe Ollie, because that was his point before the injury in May, and I was staunch that should be their opinion going forward, and I'm happy that's going to be the case because him pulling this injury and not being in the lineup yesterday was a definite bummer.
Well, and we have an opportunity to we look at the last thing that we saw, and we see Burleson hitting well, and we see Gorman hitting well. But I think you also have to look at what a guy does the last time you see him. And when Walker was healthy, he was performing at a pretty good level, pretty good clip. So I think that's what the Cardinals look at, is that before the injury, he was hitting at a good level, and they think that he can be a guy still that winds up being a good hitter. And maybe you know more than me, but I would defy you to find a point in Jordan Walker's major league career where he's had 3 consecutive months of playing.
Ooh, yeah, I don't think he's that. I don't think. Well, I mean that 2021 or not 2021, 2023
down the stretch.
Yeah, that's because he got 430 at bats that year.
Okay, yeah. Let's look at that second half then in 2023. Let's look at the numbers he put up then.
That's a very good question. Here, let me get to his game logs for 2023.
You just go to the splits.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Second half, 2023, 271 batting average, 338 on base, 436 slug, 775 OPS. In that time, 8 homers, 26 RBIs, and 263 plate appearances. So you double that over the course of a season, right? So you're looking at 520 plate appearances. You're looking at 16 home, and this is the first real chance he had to play in the majors. 16 homers, 775 OPS. And by the way, on that season, He had a 787 OPS for the whole year.
Yeah. He was actually a little bit better in the first half.
Yeah.
803 OPS in 184 at bats in the first half, 775 OPS, 236 at bats in the second half.
Yeah. And he will play next year at his age 24 season.
Okay, so then I'm probably chicken littling here, but I did put some numbers in the rundown because another IL stint. I said have me this feeling a little Dylan Carlson-y, and I'm not comparing them as hitters. I'm comparing only the feeling of watching two young outfielders who it seems like their run of good hitting never lines up with a run of health or the Cardinals' ability to have the lineup open for them. And that hasn't happened to Walker, but I think there's a potential of that happening. Now, Marmol's saying it won't, but I still think potentially. And the reason why I call this out is, and now Carlson was about a year older than Walker in each of these seasons than Walker was relative to his. But Carlson comes right out of the gate in his second year, has an OPS plus of 115 and 542 at-bats in 2021. It then drops to a 99 OPS plus in 432 at-bats, and then a 78 OPS plus and 219 at-bats in 2023. And then before the trade, he obviously had completely bottomed out at 47 OPS plus on 121 at-bats. So again, an OPS drops out from 15% above average to 1% below average, 12% below average, and the at-bats drop from 542 to 432 to 219. Walker has a 113 OPS plus on 420 at-bats in 2023, which is his age 21 season. The 2021 was Carlson's age 23 season, I think.
Okay.
So 2-year difference. My apologies. So 113 OPS plus on a 420 at bats for Walker, then 71 OPS plus on 164 at bats, and this year 58 OPS plus on 176 at bats. And again, I'm not comparing them as players, just the feeling of a guy who can never get the timing right for his career to finally get the holding it needs.
Is it possible to compare Dylan Carlson as a right-handed hitter to Jordan Walker as a right-handed hitter?
Again, I don't think so. I think they're different hitters.
Well, as a right-handed hitter, Carlson is really good.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the switch hitting factor of it all.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, I just think, and hey, Walker may not work out, but I think all of us would be bothered if Walker goes somewhere else and turns into the player that everybody in baseball thought he would become. At a 24-year-old all-star that's hitting 30 home runs with an OPS of 880. I think if that guy used to be a Cardinal, I think that'll bother people. If Randy Arozarena still bothers people, then I would think that Jordan Walker at the age of 24, 25, 26 turning into a star would bother people. I
agree 100%. And the a lot of the conversations we had around Dylan Carlson were that of if he develops, you're gonna feel pretty crappy. And there's no doubt. And this is why I was saying I was trying not to compare them as hitters, because there's also the factor of, yes, Dylan Carlson was a built hitter and obviously a great prospect, but even so, 6'5", 260 in Jordan Walker, there's a ceiling level there that you don't want to give up on, and you're going to give a little bit more chance to. And to your point, they're not changing the plan, is what Ali Marmol is saying, and I love hearing that, and that's what I wanted to hear from him, considering this happened, because it's not the same thing, but that's why I brought out the numbers, is that you're starting to get a feel of the timing's just never going to work out for this kid.
And when's the last time he played? Why are we making these decisions? When's the last time Jordan Walker played? Or how much? Let's say how much has he played in the last 14 days?
In the last 14 days,
or even month.
In the last month, he has only played 8 games.
So I don't think that's enough to make a judgment on a guy. I just cannot. I refuse to make a judgment on a player in 7 games.
Yeah, and again, I'm not making a judgment on a player here. I'm more commenting on just the issues with trying to get a young guy going, and how timing is. I mean, because again, I don't think there's anybody, even people who are super down Dylan Carlson, I don't think there's anybody who would say that Dylan Carlson didn't have the talent to become the player we all expected him to, but circumstance kept being the enemy of him in a lot of ways.
And I think if you look at a lot of those players who are on the precipice of becoming major leaguers, it'd be interesting to look at the top 100 prospects before the season of 2020 when COVID hit.
Ooh, that's a good point.
And those players that went to those ridiculous camps and they didn't do anything, they just kind of hung out. it'll be interesting to see how many of those guys were affected by the pandemic. Because they just lost a year of, actually 2 years of playing, because remember, the minor leaguers didn't come back until much later than the major leaguers did.
I'll be honest, it's a variable that I probably need to take more into account than I'm not. Ellipsis 150. I don't know. Maybe it's just the pessimist within me when it comes to the Cardinals. But when Hap homered on the very first pitch of the game, I said out loud, so that's how this game's going to go, huh?
Yep, no doubt about it. So
I also think that has to be a little bit about playing a team higher than you in the division and you shellacking them for 2 games and being like, this one's going to come back around a little bit on us, right?
Yeah. I love this. We've got another chat, and this is terrific. Compare Burleson and Walker considering the splits and ages. And I think that's a great idea, because Alec Burleson played at East Carolina University. He, in his age 23 season, which is Jordan Walker's age 23 season. Alec Burleson was a rookie that hit 188 in 53 plate appearances in his age 23 season.
54 OPS, his age 24 season. He had an 87 OPS, 13% below major league OPS plus, 13% below major league average. 8 home runs, 36 RBI, 244 OBP of 300. 691 OPS. That was his age 24 season. And oh, by the way, last year, his age 25 season, when he was kind of breaking out, still only 4% better than average.
And in his first 3 seasons, this season obviously not complete, Burleson never had an OPS higher than the one that Jordan Walker put together in his rookie year.
Yeah.
At the age of 21.
There you go.
So his Burleson in his best OPS year was last year at 735. Walker had a 787 in his rookie year. So that's your Burleson and Walker comparison by age.
Chris Widener, last night aside, I like how I keep seeing everybody picking everybody up. The team has no quit in them. I'll give them that.
There's no doubt. And Jeff Jones of the Belleville News-Democrat on Saturday's game, we just went down the list. There were 19 different people that contributed to that Cardinal win. And I mentioned to somebody yesterday that it was Mike Claiborne. I walked into the Cardinal clubhouse when they were winning 101 games in 1985. And I walked in, and Andy Van Slyke and Willie McGee's lockers were right next to each other. And Slick says to Willie, he says, "Man, Will, we got a different hero every day." And they were rolling. They were in the midst of winning like 13 out of 18 or 13 out of 17. And that's kind of like this team. They have a different hero every day, and it's always somebody stepping up and doing things. And to me, that's a huge advantage when you don't have to rely on 1 or 2 players to carry you for the whole season. It's different when you have Albert Pujols, and you count on him to carry you for a whole season. I don't think the Cardinals have anybody right now at this moment that's capable of carrying a team for 6 weeks and leading them to a stretch where they play 700 ball. They just don't have those players. But everybody contributing, making it a team effort, crowdsourcing, as it were, is really benefiting this team.
Greater than the sum of their parts,
Yep.
we like to say. Randy Badger with a fantastic question here. When I think of Jordan Walker, I'm wondering, who do we have? The next George Hendrick or the next Jason Hayward? Thoughts as a man who is a big fan and watched a lot of George Hendrick. Your thought on the 2 names he's thrown out there for Jordan Walker?
Yeah, if Jordan Walker would wind up being George Hendrick, I don't think anybody would be disappointed.
No, I didn't realize his run in St. Louis. So this includes the first half of that season in San Diego before he gets here. Mm-hmm. But from 78 to 84 in St. Louis across those 6+ seasons, a per 162 game average for George Hendrick was 175 hits, 22 home runs, 103 RBI, 50 walks to 61 strikeouts, a batting average of 292, OBP of 344, slugging 466, an OPS of 811, and an OPS plus of 124.
And the 162 average of 22 home runs would have been dramatically different if you didn't have like 385 in the alleys, 414 to dead center field, and 335 down the lines. It was unbelievable.
That
ballpark was.
6 seasons of 124 OPS plus is nuts. Like that is the kind of stuff that, like, right now, George Hendrick would be getting highlight reels all over MLB Network if he was putting up against 6 straight seasons of 120. I mean, that's like Jose Ramirez kind of stuff, like what he's been doing with like the Indians the last few years. That's nuts. Maybe not that level, but damn, George Hendrick could hit.
And he made it look easy. He was he was always accused of kind of dogging it, but he was just really smooth. He was a good player. Now, if he winds up being the Jason Hayward before Jason Hayward went to the Cubs, I'd take that too. But Jason Hayward was, when he arrived on the scene, and he was developed properly. They knew he was an outfielder. They put him in the outfield. They let him develop as an outfielder. He came up young. They had an organization that was prepared to develop young players. Remember, Jordan Walker was not really developed properly. The Cardinals admitted that when they basically tore apart their minor league system after last season and said, yeah, we're going to start over. One of the reasons was because they had young players, especially first-round picks like Gorman and Jordan Walker, who were not properly developed.
Yeah, and that put them behind the 8 ball, and finally they realized we got to get things figured out. The problem, though, is when it comes to development in baseball or any sport, but majorly in baseball, that's not a quick turnaround. That's going to be something that takes you years to fix because you got to do it from the ground back up.
So it's interesting when you talk to old schooly players, they get like 1,600. Let me give you that was kind of I've asked veteran guys how many at bats it takes in the minors to really be ready, and then you aren't ready once you get to the majors either, because it takes a few years once you're in the majors. But here's a guy, Bernard Gilkey, 2,866 minor league plate appearances before he ever made it to the majors. A guy like Ray Langford was, and this is that group, that was kind of the end of the really high quality Cardinal system. If you look at Ray, who's a Cardinal Hall of Famer, his total minor league plate appearances, and I think Walker, by the way, had something like 700 or 600. Ray had 2,065 minor league plate appearances. Jordan Walker, he didn't get to 1,000, did he?
No, I don't.
I'll get it right now.
Can I take a little bit of a victory lap really quick?
Sure.
So I pulled Jose Ramirez out of my ass as a comparison for George Hendrick.
Yep.
Randy, I have to give myself a little bit of pat on the back here. So
okay, good.
The Hendrick number was 175 hits, 22 home runs, 103 RBI, 290, 340, 460, 124 OPS.
Wow.
Jose Ramirez has 172 hits per season, which is compared to 175 across his last seven seasons with the Indians. So 172 hits, more home runs, 33 to 22, but 109 RBI to 103 RBI, a 278 average to a 266, a 352 OBP to a 344 OBP, a 516 slug to a 470, and an 868 OPS for Jose Ramirez compared to an 811 for George Hendricks. I kind of hit that one pretty well. I'm taking that one and walking with that.
Lap. Absolutely.
I'm walking away with that one.
So, and one other quick note, Walker, before he made his major league debut, had 1,358. So Gilkey had 2,600, Langford had 2,000, and Walker, before he made his major league debut, had about 1,300.
While we're talking about prospects, we did get a chat earlier from Topher Rocks. What do you think you guys do at number 5 in the draft? I don't have a deep dive on this, but there was a great article today in The Athletic talking about which pitchers could make like pretty early impacts with Major League Baseball teams this year, and all 3 of the top lefties right at the top of the draft were listed by The Athletic. And then when you think about the fact that you have Holiday as well, so that's 3 big lefties at the top of the draft in Liam Doyle out of Tennessee, Kate Anderson out of LSU, and Jamie Arnold out of Florida State. And then you think you have the Holiday kid. That's 4 names right there that right now I'm pretty jacked about any 4 of them. And that's a pretty good chance one of them falls to number 5. I've kind of turned the worm on going from it's just the MLB draft. This can't really, how long is it going to take to, after reading this about how all 3 of these lefties could impact the team within a calendar year, plus Holiday being the kicker potentially, if none of these guys fall, I'm kind of excited about the draft for the Cardinals now.
I think the only way Holiday falls to the Cardinals is if Scott Boras games the system again and tells the Rockies, hey, you can draft him, but he's not signing with you. And then the Cardinals are able to get him over slot. And the Cardinals, by the way, they aren't Scott Boras fans right now either. I don't think there's a single Boras guy on the Cardinal roster at the moment with the departure of Tyler O'Neill.
And Downton's point, those are the 4 guys who are going 1 through 4. But literally, we just had a case where they got J.J. Weatherholt because he fell when no one thought he was going to. So this isn't. It's not like it's never going to happen. And a lot of times, if we remember talking about the draft for like the NFL, you're sitting there saying, I want one player to fall, and you're picking 13th, and you're hoping one player falls. Cardinals are picking 5th, and I'm okay with any of the 4 ahead of them falling. I'm okay with being a little bit confident and having a little bit of hope that something might happen in their favor. I'm okay with, I didn't care a month ago. Now I got a little hope. That's fun.
Yeah, and this is another thing about the draft, and we are just a couple of weeks away, 3 weeks away. And it's one of the unfortunate things about the injuries to Jordan Walker, because aside from Walker and Ivan Herrera, the Cardinals don't have, and I've asked a lot of people in the organization, hey, who's your next right-handed power hitter after those two that are already on the major league roster? They don't have a guy.
Oh,
They don't have a right-handed power hitter in their organization. Not to say you can't get one in the second round, but if I were them, I might be looking at like the Oregon State shortstop Arquette. He's 6'5", 220. He's not going to play, and he's a 55 power guy. He's not going to play shortstop in the major leagues. But I might be looking, if he fits my profile, for a college right-handed power hitter. Now, if the pitchers are that far ahead in your overall grade of the hitter, then obviously you take the pitchers. But if I could get a reasonably advanced hitter, and I think Pipeline has. They've got Arquette listed as their number 6 overall guy.
And here's my thing: is Bill Downton like? Yes, I've read the mock drafts, Bill. I know that they have them drafting the high school shortstop right now, Eli Willits. Yeah. But at the same time, this isn't all consensus. Jim Callis, who does the draft pipeline stuff for MLB.com, literally just had Liam Doyle as his 8th ranked prospect in his most recent updated rankings, and he has Seth Hernandez, the right-handed pitcher out of high school. He has him up in his top 4. So this is why I'm saying I don't think it's ridiculous that one of these 3 big lefties or Holiday could potentially fall. It's not a high chance, but one of them could. And again, the reason why I'm focusing on that is because of an article that The Athletic put out that those 3 lefties all grade out as potentially being major league pitchers within a calendar year.
Right.
Liam Doyle, they're saying, could be a relief pitcher this September.
And I think what the Cardinals and every good organization need to do, you take the best player available. You don't take a player like you don't avoid a shortstop because you have Mason Wynn at short right now.
No doubt.
You don't. And what I'm saying with a college right-handed hitter, if you have an equal grade for 3 players, and one's a left fielder and a right-handed power hitter, and one's a second baseman and one's a pitcher, and you have the equal grades, well, you take the right-handed hitting outfielder, right? Because that's closer to your need. But if you have different grades for the players, then you take the guy that has the highest grade. For example, one of those 3 college pitchers. Sure, you have Matthews, and you have McGreevy, and you have Tink Hentz, and you have Tekoa Roby, and then Jerpy on the way if and when he gets healthy. You've got Rajic. You've got pitchers, right, that are going to be major league pitchers. But that doesn't mean that if you have a pitcher with a higher grade, you don't take him because you have other pitchers on the way. No, you never have enough pitching. Same thing like with the fact that you have Wynn on the infield, Donovan on the infield, Weatherholt, Sajaci. You don't avoid a shortstop just because you have a bunch of guys in your system or at the major league level that happen to be young.
Same thing probably with the lefty righty thing too.
No doubt. Yeah. You take the best guy.
And I also want to throw out there is another hitter who is shooting up draft boards reportedly, and this is an incredible name, also coming out of Auburn, Ike Irish, who was the catcher, injured his shoulder, then moved to outfield and just continued to did not stop raking.
Dale Murphy.
Or I was just saying he's just Ivan Herrera before Ivan Herrera makes that move. But he's shooting up draft boards. He could be a top 5 pick. I'm not sure if the Cardinals are in there, but he's maybe the name that goes up into the top 5 and throws off the top 4 and sends one of those guys falling to the Cardinals. And also I just Ike Irish is an unbelievable baseball name. Like that is some 19th, like Ike Irish was struck out by Tungsten Arm O'Doyle. Like Ike Irish is a 1930s baseball name. I love that.
One of the biggest disappointments that I ever had in the baseball draft is that the Cardinals weren't able to draft Seth Beer.
God, it's an elite name.
It really is.
Couldn't get Berger here, and he's a local kid.
Yeah, he's in the Phillies organization now. I think he got drafted by Houston. He played for Arizona as well. Maybe he got drafted by Arizona. But anyway, Seth Beer, of all people, should have been a Cardinal. Chat from Mike Kennedy. Is that right? Let me get back to Mike.
Yep.
Yeah. Walker needs to go to Memphis and stay there until he totally corrects his pulling off the pitch swing flaws. Right now, he is pretty much a dead out. Well, right now, he's actually on the IL. But the primary reason that the Cardinals hired Brant Brown as their hitting coach is to correct the flaws of Walker and Gorman. And we all know, again, because it's been pointed out, that players were kind of in charge of developing themselves in the Cardinal minor league system for a long time. When you only have like 5 or 6 coaches in your entire minor league system, the players are kind of thrown into the water and said, yeah, do it yourself. And the Cardinals are not in a position right now at the stage of Jordan Walker's career that he's at where they want to say, yeah, we hired a hitting coach specifically for you at the major league level, but we're going to send you back where we're going to just throw you into the water again and try to get you to fix this on your own. This is, we'll say it again. We've said it since March, but we'll say it again. This is a developmental growth runway year for the Cardinals, and that includes everybody. That includes Alec Burleson. That includes Victor Scott II. That includes Noot Barr being healthy. That includes Mason Wynn doing it for a whole year. It includes Brendan Donovan, Pajes Herrera, Walker, Gorman. It includes all of those guys. And the Cardinals aren't pressuring their players now to win a division. They know that they aren't good enough yet to win a division or win a World Series in 2025. What they want to do is find out what the guy is capable of at the major league level. And that's why Jordan Walker, when he gets healthy again, will be here learning and finding out what major league pitchers are doing to adjust against him.
Yeah, and that's really what you would need to see from Jordan Walker.
And the video, by the way, that they have is pretty good. My guess is that Jordan Walker probably has a pretty good idea of what's going wrong.
So they're paying for these video.
Yeah, they've got a video room. Yeah.
God, thank God they're not the Lakers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make fun of them for the rest of time for that. By the way, I just need everyone to know I'm going to make fun of the Lakers for being cheapskates while residing in LA for the end of time. And I know it's small sample size, but the reason why Randy brought it up earlier and why we're having this conversation is because the 2 weeks before the injury that ended May, he had a 900 OPS.
Yeah.
And he was hitting the ball consistently. And more importantly, I think from him, he was slugging the ball without hitting home runs, which was he was doing the kind of power hitting you need to see from him, which was he had a 516 slug and he only had 1 home run. A lot of the slug was coming from multiple doubles and a triple. And so you were starting to see the line drive profile that we need to see from Jordan Walker as the real Birdman makes a joke. Tell us about Jordan Walker in tragic arc, please. And so that was enticing from Jordan Walker. And that's why right before the injury, Marmol said, we're going to keep giving him the chances no matter what, lefty, righty. And that's why to Randy's point, even after he went on the IL again because of the appendicitis yesterday, Marmol stated that when he comes back, that's still the plan. And that's why.
Yeah. Back in 1975, the Cardinals had a young hitter that they nearly traded to the San Francisco Giants for, Willie Montanez. And the guy had struggled. He only hit .219 with a 556 OPS in the first half. And I don't know who it was that prevailed upon the organization to say, no, you don't trade this guy. This guy's got talent, and you don't move him just because at the age of 23, he's having a rugged year. He just doesn't have enough time under his belt, and we need to be patient with this guy. And so the Cardinals wind up not trading Keith Hernandez, and he wound up becoming the 1979 National League MVP. Happens at different times for different guys. And if how mad would you be if the Cardinals would have traded in the space of 5 years Steve Carlton and Keith Hernandez?
Would that have been bad for them?
I think it would have been bad.
Like trading Raleigh Fingers?
They only had him for less than 24 hours. That's
I know. I'm just messing around. I like to focus on that.
And Raleigh traded himself.
He did trade himself. You're right.
Why he said, "Hey,
he did really well."
If we have Suter, Suter's pitching by 9th. Are you okay pitching the 8th?"
No.
And Raleigh said, "No,
it's not really what I do here, champ."
So so they traded him. Rocchio, what NBA draft pick last night shocked you the most?
Oh, Jesus. I was really not prepared. I think I'm just surprised that Ace Bailey went that high still. To anyone wondering,
Utah.
Ace Bailey
Former Blues
out of
player.
Rutgers, went 5th overall to the Utah Jazz. And there was a lot of comparisons to how he was handling the draft process in the NBA to how Shadur Sanders had handled his NFL process, where he was canceling meetings. The reports coming out of the meetings he was having were a little bit disconcerting. And honestly, I'm going to extrapolate to the bigger thing that surprised me. And and Ace Bailey's a part of it, which is 2 players in the top 5 drafted last night played for Rutgers.
Isn't that amazing?
I don't remember Rutgers really dominating the NCAA tournament at any point this year, Randy.
No, I don't either.
So I have to wonder. I think Dylan Harper's a special player. I think Ace Bailey has the potential to be a very special player. But I've watched a lot of basketball that anytime a team has 2 top 5 picks in the NBA draft and the team didn't really do much, I got some alarm bells asking me why. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you do much?
Sure.
Because it's not hard in college basketball to win a lot of games with 2 NBA level players in the top 5 level player. Like, that's ridiculous. So that was probably my biggest reaction, was the Ace Bailey, and I knew it was going to happen because Harper was for a long time projected to be the 2nd overall pick to the Spurs, and the Ace Bailey thing was, will he fall? So him going in the top 10 or top 5 wasn't surprising. It was just the expectation was, will he tumble out of there? But just the fact that I was looking at a draft board that had like 5 Duke players, I'm used to that.
Yeah, right.
2 Rutgers players. What the hell?
Yeah. By the way, the other Ace Bailey, now, if you remember this, you're as old as I am, which is good.
Okay.
The other Ace Bailey, 74-75 St. Louis Blues, 49 games, 13 goals, 23 assists, had 36 points, and then they trade him to Washington. And that disappointed a 12-year-old Randy when they traded the other Ace Bailey. By the way, there were 2 Ace Baileys in the NHL. There was one that played in the 30s as well, but the one that played in the late 60s and 70s, the Blues Ace Bailey, wound up scoring a grand total of 20 goals and had 26 assists for the Blues. So now you know via podcast.
Lex Luthor also was, are you shocked that Trinity Catholic graduate Ryan Kalkbrenner wasn't drafted last night?
He's going to the Celtics tonight.
I don't want to get in big trouble at home, so I'm going to amend your question and say, am I shocked that Creighton University graduate Ryan Kalkbrenner wasn't drafted last night? Cover my ass at home on that one.
Nice play.
No, I'm not, because as he's very tall, he's a very good shot blocker, but he is one of those classic 7'2" guys, or however tall he is. He might be like 7'3". Honestly, I don't know. Where he's got the Bambi legs things going a little bit, where it's like the coordination isn't there. And in today's NBA, being able to guard the rim is a very useful thing. But if you can't get out and run laterally with guards and wings, you're not going to play in the NBA very often. And so that's why Kalkbrenner's not a first-round pick, bottom line.
Fair enough. By the way, okay, I thought Ace Bailey might have been the last Blue to wear 24 before Bernie Federico, but it wasn't. Jamie Masters was the last Blue to wear 24 before Bernie Federico. We are just coming up with information overload.
I love these kind of random shows where we're just kind of pulling things out of the ether or whatever. It's fun. It's fun like that.
Do we have a Cardinal lineup yet?
That's a good question. I have not been checking.
Cardinals 1:15 game. Second alert weather day.
We have a Cardinals lineup, but not a Cubs lineup. But I don't care. By the way, I need to show this to everybody. For some reason, my MLB lineups page shows up in Spanish. So I've now learned that lefties are LZ, righties are LD.
Okay.
I think so.
Let's see. No real surprises here.
Is it the same lineup as yesterday?
Garrett Hampson back in center field. Yeah, Donovan, Wynn, Burleson.
One change.
Contreras, Arenado, Sajasi, Gorman, Pajes, and Hampson.
So literally the only change from last night is Pajes is behind the plate instead of Pozo.
And I kind of thought that we would see all 13 position players start in these last 2 games.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. Why are we getting no changes?
After scoring no runs. I don't know. Well, who are you going to put? Scott, you don't like Scott against the lefty, right?
No.
What else are we doing here? So you don't have Victor, you don't have Noot, you don't have Pozo.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
And who am I leaving out here?
I guess the only thing I really care about is getting Walker in at bat. but he's obviously
on the IL.
On the IL. So yeah, I guess I can't really criticize it. Man, that sucks. The real third man might have been right. There might have like all of a sudden the logjam cleared up pretty quickly by one guy getting hurt.
Yeah.
Jesus, maybe there wasn't a logjam. You might have been right on that one. I'll give you that.
Well, you don't have to worry about Barrero anymore, which is nice.
That does help things.
Yeah.
Well, Hampson was useful last night. Center field, middle infield, pitching. I mean, come on.
A 3-pitch inning. That's better than. Do you agree that is better than an immaculate inning?
Yeah, it's more useful. Rooster from Birmingham says Noot has been hot. Don't know how you sit him on the bench 2 games in a row. God bless America. I just bit my tongue. There have been multiple texts. I keep doing it. There have been multiple texts we've gotten today commenting on the lack of players who had been hot playing and seeing the bench over the last few days. I guess Newbar being the one person they're talking about.
Yeah, and maybe it's because it's a lefty. Maybe they just feel like in this scenario that's unfolding today going against Imanaga, maybe they don't have confidence in him being able to hit Imanaga. And by the way, the other guy that's sitting today is Fermin. I've just completely forgot about him being here. So
I completely blanked on that one too.
Yeah, Fermin, Scott, Pozo, Noot is your bench in this game today. So Donovan, Wynn, Burleson, Contreras, Arenado, Sajasi, Gorman, Pajes, and Hampson with Palante on the mound for the Cardinals. And you still have time to get in and play DraftKings Pick 6 for today's game. We're so deep into the season, and you know what all these people are going to do. And I've teamed up with DraftKings to help bring you Pick 6, the all-new way to play daily fantasy sports. And right now, if you're a new customer, play just $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. That's 10 extra picks to keep the action going all week long. It's easy to start, fun to follow, and gives you a whole new way to stay connected to the game. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app today and use that promo code that you see right there, STL Sports, to pick your players. Here's what I have done today with my players on DraftKings Pick 6. The Giants are playing the Marlins. Jansen Junk off to a good start. I love the name. Jansen Junk.
That's a great name
for the Marlins.
God bless it.
And I've got Willie Adames to have more than 1.5 hits and runs and RBIs versus Junk. So Adames plus 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. And then Clayton Kershaw pitches at Coors Field today. I've got him with more than 4.5 hits allowed against the Rocks.
I like that. Take it.
All right. That's what we're going with. Pretty
gambling problem? Call.
Oh, DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
One final thing as we're talking about the lineup, because Bill Downton points out that Newbar usually hits left-handed pitchers. Let's dive into the splits again like we were doing yesterday with Burley and Gorman. Newbar in his career, 770 OPS against righties, 720 OPS against lefties. So only a 50-point drop there. But this season, he's still got that 770 OPS against righties, but his OPS against lefties this year is actually 670. So instead of a 50-point drop, we're looking at a 100-point drop in the splits for Newbar. And then I think you also have to factor in, not only are you potentially losing a little bit for him having to face lefties, but also how much of the team are you changing with the defensive drop, if there is one, from Hampson in center field to Newbar, because that would be where the move would be in center field. So is that also part of the equation of taking a little bit of a hit in center field defense?
Yes, I would think that that's part of it. And also, and I don't know what the hit Newbar got was against Imanaga. I don't know if he hit the ball hard. He's 1 for 3 in his career with a K against Imanaga, and they might just not think that he looked too good against Shoto Imanaga. And obviously, they're doing a little bit of a platoon here with Hampson being the center fielder.
Yeah, and Bach Hogg. So sit the hot bat because the numbers are bad. I thought Marmol wasn't an analytic guy. Is righty-lefty splits an analytic thing? In fact, I think an analytic thing, if I watch Moneyball correctly, is to ignore righty-lefty splits.
Well, you platoon, but that's
I don't care about righty-lefty.
Yeah, I don't care about righty-lefty. That's no, he's even though he'll tell you he's not an analytics guy, he's kind of an analytics guy. Yeah. So and hey, as he says, if you make a move that works, it's a good move. If you make a move that doesn't work, it's a bad move. So, and I know we all have our favorites that we want to see in the lineup, and hopefully Lars will be in there in Cleveland for you next week. Or over the weekend.
You'd hope so, because that was a big thing we talked about yesterday. Newbar really has been hitting the ball since getting moved down in the lineup in his return, like a 990 OPS, I think it was, in the few games. So I would have liked to see Newbar as well, but you take all the factors in, the defensive factor, the drop this year, especially being more stark with his righty-lefty splits, and I understand why Marmol is pulling the trigger. I'm surprised that he's doing it 2 games in a row. I was like okay with 1 game and saying, you got to do it 1 time, but don't do it to both. I'm a little bit surprised they are doing it in both games, considering you had no offense and you might need a little bit of an offensive boost. But there is also, this is why it's always the balance thing. Do you want to take away at any level of a defender when Andre Palante is your pitcher? Because that's what you'd be doing.
Yeah, that's right. Pitch to contact, right?
Pitch to contact.
Yep. Lex Luthor. Analytics is the new boogeyman, especially for people born prior to 1990 in all sports. And I don't think people that are questioning the utilization of analytics are necessarily boomers. I think data is good. I think when you're owned by analytics, though, I think when you are controlled and you treat the players as simply that analytics number rather than a human being, I think that's where I run into problems. And I know that's what a lot of teams do, is they don't concern themselves with what's going on in a player's life, or if a player is dinged up, or if a player has the ability to slow his heart rate down in key situations. The analytics people, Billy Beane drives away from the ballpark at night, right? Tony Lewis says, I want to be able to look at a guy's eye and find out what he's like right there. At the end of the day, as Tony said, they're men, not machines. As Joe Torre said, hey, the game has a heartbeat. It's real. It's breathing. And I think that's where the analytics people lose me, is when they think that just because a player put up X numbers in a situation, that he's going to be able to do that in every situation.
That's fair.
There are players that are the exact same, whether it's the World Series or regular season. Derek Jeter is one of those guys. There are other players. Look at the postseason and regular season numbers of people like Barry Bonds or Alex Rodriguez. Other players don't rise to the occasion, and their postseason numbers, when the lights are brightest, they just aren't the same. And so that's where I look at it, is I want to know about the human element of a sport as well.
The real third man, analytics is hindsight, managing is foresight, a place for both. But the key is you got to use both to help the other one. Like, you have to use the hindsight that analytics give you to inform the foresight. Mm-hmm. And I also think you have to take some of the foresight, you have to take some of the managing aspects, and you have to bring it into the hindsight as well. Because your point, you can't just look at what happened in the vacuum of the numbers. You need the context, to your point, of what's going on in his life. What have we been working on? Those kind of things are always going to be material in both the hindsight and the foresight. So in all ways with this conversation, every part of it can be answered with, you need, it can't just be 100% either way. There's got to be an 80-20 aspect in both sense.
If you have, let's say there's a pitcher that you have 2 players, and one player is 5 for his last 18 and with a couple of home runs, but against a particular pitcher, he's 1 for 26. And then you have another hitter that's 11 for 26 against that pitcher, but he's only 2 for his last 11. I'm going to go with the guy that's 11 for 26 against the pitcher. I like that individual matchup better than what I've seen recently.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. The mindset, you're picking up a tell off that pitcher. Just, I know he's a lefty, but there's something about this lefty that I see better than any other lefty. Trust me on this one. That is a factor of managing that still needs to be there, because those things, everything's not always equal. The reason why analytics are useful isn't because you're looking at, and that's the difference, is managers need to isolate one-on-one moments and say, is this different than what the stats say? Because the stats are looking at 10,000 moments. and saying more often than not in 10,000 moments, this is more likely than this. The manager's job is to say, is this situation one of the 10,000 or is it one of the outliers?
And do those 10,000 moments occur on the field?
Yes.
Okay, then that's good. If we have a situation where a player has done something 10,000 times, then I'm
only the player? Part of it is just like a player at that position has done this 10,000, 100,000 times. And we have a player in that position, in that part of the field, has done this 50,000 times. We have it on camera. It's in our system. This is what is supposed to happen more often than not. And then you always have to add in the context of, and take into consideration the chance of the outlier moment.
This is why I like the expected goals thing in the NHL. And I always have this debate with Matthew. So how can you say that the exact same situation applies when you have a high danger chance in front of the net and Patrick Lalime is the goalie in one situation and Martin Brodeur is the goalie in another situation? How can XG be exactly the same when the two goalies are completely different?
There's not, and that's why you have, and that's why you also use XG to say, like, my expectation for Martin Brodeur is different than it is for the other guy you mentioned,
Patrick Lalime.
Patrick
may have
Lalime
had the worst goalie season in the history of the Blues.
Patrick Lalime, and so, and that's the thing. You can't just look at XG. You have to look at who's doing it. You also have to, like, XG also, it matters about the defense. What kind of defense did Patrick Lalime have in front of him versus what
Martin Brodeur?
What Martin Brodeur had in front of him.
Yeah,
I feel like that's also going to be changed.
It should affect XG.
It's going to change those things. So you can't just get one thing or another. Spencer, it's too far from when someone doesn't get runs, homers, and RBI, and you call that player out, and someone comments, but he hits the ball hard. That's cooked behavior. I think you're having two different conversations. Is the problem is you're saying this player doesn't produce, and someone's telling you, but they have potential, and all that, and you guys are having two different conversations because your conversation isn't about potential, and that person's conversation isn't about production. But it's not a bad thing to now have things that are equatable, whereas in 1985 the thing was, I just like the look of the player. Like, people would just hit you before numbers with saying, I just got a feel about this guy. That was them saying, I like the fact that he rips the ball off the bat every time, even though he rips it right to the third baseman. It's just now we can quantify it, and I don't think that's dangerous.
So there was a time last year, and I don't know if it's still the case this year, where the lowest average exit velocity in baseball belonged to Luis Arraez.
Yeah, because
and he was hitting like 320.
And again, context there is important, because just because a play, and this is, I was talking about this with somebody on soccer on Twitter. Just because a player doesn't do everything well doesn't mean that player sucks. Luis Arraez doesn't suck because he has a low slugging percentage and a low average exit velocity. It doesn't mean he sucks. It means he doesn't hit the ball for power. But the good thing about sports, almost all sports, is that there are niches that you can find within your sport to be a useful player by doing something differently. And Luis Arraez has found that niche of, I'm going to get on base all the time. Yeah, I'm not going to rake into the channels, but I'm going to be there more often than not, more often than any other play in baseball. And that's what you're going to get from me. Yeah, if it's a 1-1 game in the bottom of the ninth, not probably going to hit you that home run. Sorry.
Yeah. He Arraez this year, by the way, has the 12th lowest average exit velocity in baseball. And last year, let me see where he finished, because I know it was there was a time where his was really low. By the way, Aaron Judge led last year, and Arraez did pick it up last year, but was still in the bottom 20 in terms of average exit. Actually, no, I'm sorry, 24th from the bottom. But so he picked it up down the stretch. But still, this year, 12th lowest average exit velocity for one of the best hitters in the game. All right, a couple more things. By the way, one of the things that I get about analytics, Lex Luther, who started this analytics discussion, we appreciate it. He said, I meant more people blame every change to a sport they don't like on analytics. I don't blame analytics for increased three-pointers. I do, and I think it's a good thing. It makes sense, because you can hit 40% of your three-pointers or 50% or 52% of your two-pointers and get the same amount of points out of that. So I get why teams want to load up on three-pointers.
Yeah, but I'll agree with him that three-pointers isn't because of analytics. It's because of math, and
Yeah.
analytics and math are different.
No, they're.
I think analytics and math are a different thing. Everyone in basketball figuring out a very simple math problem.
Well, Daryl Morey, everybody kind of followed Daryl.
Was
Morey, right?
not analytics, because analytics, in my opinion, does put the numbers into some context. You just have to correctly use that context to correctly use the analytic. It's why I get so mad about people using WAR incorrectly in baseball. People right now, one of the discussions is, well, what's Aaron Judge's WAR versus Cal Raleig's WAR? I don't care. They play different positions. WAR is a position-specific stat. Stop using the stat wrong. The NBA thing is just people did math.
Yeah. Well, and there's no way that data can be a bad thing. And as the Blues get ready for the NHL draft tomorrow night, they'll be using, I'm sure, data with the 19th pick in the draft. And Blues assistant GM Tim Taylor joins us now on the Randy Karraker Show here on STL Sports Central. And he's going to pop up on the screen here in just a moment. And Tim Taylor, first of all, thank you very much for joining us. I know that this is a busy time for you guys. How you doing?
A second. See if he's up.
He's almost there.
He's almost there. Let's see if Wilson's going to add him manually for us.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll get him in. There's Tim. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing great. Thank you. Hey, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker, and thanks for joining us on the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. I don't know if you were able to hear what we were just talking about, but when you have this wealth of information about young players, how much of that goes into the evaluation process of just analytic data that you have?
Well, I was listening, guys, and it's an extra tool that we have. Obviously, our eyesight and being live at games is huge for our amateur scouts. But all these analytics stats that come after, they really help with the process and making the right decision when you're choosing players, especially at 18 years old. Trying to direct what their future looks like is a really tough job. It's probably the hardest job in the business of hockey. And our amateur scouts, St. Louis Blues, have done a great job over the years. And obviously, with the players, the wealth of players we have now, analytics has taken over a little bit and just another tool for us to analyze these players with.
And one of the big things we're talking about with analytics is the importance of context. And as you're going through the draft, do analytics help you guys separate and kind of even things out, because you're playing with you're looking at guys who are playing with different level of line mates, they're playing with different level of teams, they're playing against different levels of competition, especially when you extrapolate from just the OHL and the other Canadian leagues to now the Swedish leagues and things like that. So is analytics a way to kind of even the playing field in a way for your guys' analysis?
Yeah, Mikey Perlman runs our analytics side here with the Blues and has done a great job with that. You know, he comes up with a certain formula that weighs the leagues over other leagues and tries to come up with an average value, so to speak. So again, it's not everything that we use, but it's another tool. It's one of the equations that we put into when we're dealing with young prospects. And characterization is another one that's a big one for us. We even go back with not just stats, but when talking to their coaches from midget, Bantam, then the people they live with, their billet families live with now. So we gather a lot of information, and it's put all together, and then you decide on the future of this player.
Tim, your video department did a great documentary about the draft a couple of years ago when you had the 3 first-round picks. And I remember watching that, and you guys had the number 10 pick, and you'd almost kind of willed Dalibor Dvorsky to be your guy. It was like, okay, he's going to be there, and it seems like you'd settled on him. How much more difficult is it when you're picking at 19 rather than 10?
Well, yeah, you're really excited. That year we got Dalibor at 10, we got Stenberg and we Lindstein as well in the first round. 3 really good picks, and again, you're right. You do will those picks because you're looking at the board and you're looking to see who's going to fall to you, so to speak. And you're really at that pick. You're so excited when the team before you does not announce his name. Then it comes to you and you're real excited. So the same thing at 19, we have our players that we really like, and you look at the board and you think, okay, anywhere that we have on our board from maybe 8 to 15, 18 to 16 is going to fall into you. So you're excited about the players, and again, you're really nervous when it gets down to 2 teams before you, hoping that they don't pick the player that you really want.
In your experience, have the Blues ever drafted for need in the first round?
No, not with my experience, and I mean, we're lucky. We're learning off the best with Doug Armstrong. He's so articulate and really he thinks things through, and really no stone gets unturned with this draft. Tony Felter and his staff have done an amazing job under the guidance. So they really think things through, and they know exactly what they're looking for, and no real surprises at all.
And how much does it, I mean, obviously you're not working with other sports, but I mean, other sports have such a smaller time frame. So does the time frame, knowing that there's a 2 or 3 year window for almost all of these players, does that almost give you more freedom to consistently draft for the best player available, knowing that the roster construction of the team is going to be so different for 2 or 3 years when these players' positions is actually going to come into effect?
Well, yeah, again, going back to kind of the original question, you take the best player and then you build your team from that. And you're hoping that 2 to 3 years is a timetable, but really ultimately the average is more 3 to 5, especially when they're playing junior. They're 18 years old. They have 2 more years left. You want a year or 2 in the minors, so you're looking at 3 to 4 years, but the average on most is 3 to 5. So you really, at the end of the day, it's really hard. It's the toughest job, I think, in hockey is amateur scouting, because you're predicting what these young 18-year-olds are going to turn out when they're 23, 24, 25, not just with their personalities, but their physical nature too, and their bodies. And then you have to go into the structure of, not all the best players make it. It's the ones that really want it, and that really the guys that put the most work into it. And you're predicting that these guys' work habits and their wants and will never change, that hockey is their only thing in life. So it's a really tough job.
You just gave us some great information there. And especially now with video games and all of the distractions we have, it's kind of hard to find the athletes that are just rink rats, just to find those guys that just want to play hockey or play football or baseball because they love it. But you just gave us a list of things. But is there a common denominator among the players the Blues draft? Is there one thing that is a non-starter where, okay, if this guy's got this issue, we don't draft him? Or conversely, is there something that every Blues draft choice has?
Well, we like to say character and heart are 2 main things that you look at. Obviously, everyone that goes through a draft has skill. There is other guys that are more skilled than some players, but at the end of the day, it's in their mind. What do they want to do? What's most prevalent in their life? And as we know, things change when we grow as young adults, and your aspirations and dreams become different from one year to the next. And what you're hoping for is that these players understand the gift that they have, and they'll put the work in to ultimately make it. And sometimes you almost want the boy that come from a small family or small hometown that really he has one drive and one thing's been on his mind since the age of 5 or 6, and that they want it so bad they can taste it. They will go through anything to do it. And at the end of the day, that's what it takes to win Stanley Cups too. So you're kind of drafting for that character guy that like the Jake Neighbors, the Colton Perricos that we have, and so on with our young players, that they have the drive and will that will win you championships, because that's what makes them hockey players. But then at the end of the day, we draft them to be on our team. We also draft it to one day, how do we see them in a Game 7 Stanley Cup? Will they go through the wall to make that play to win the cup? Not just the goal, but will they dump it out, take that huge hit against the glass or against the boards, give up their body to block a shot to win? And that's what, at the end of the day, you're trying to draft these guys and see what they're all about at 18.
Considering the success you guys have had with your first round picks over the last couple of years, again, in that 3 or 4 year window, Jimmy Snuggerud joins the pro squad, Dalibor Dvorsky joins the pro squad, and then coming up at the development camp, Theo Lindstein, one of the 23 first round picks, and Juracek, the 24 first round pick, will be there as well. So a lot of these guys are progressing already in the pipeline. How has that felt for you guys in the room, having so much success over the last 3 or 4 years?
Well, what we like is really when you start seeing players join the team, like you say with Snuggerud, had a great playoff experience with us, and we're hoping he takes steps again next year and be a huge part of our team. So that's the ultimate goal for our guys when they're making picks, that these guys go into our team and huge contributors to our team success. So yeah, we're looking forward to all these young guys. It's really every year you evaluate these guys because you're hoping to get better. They have to take another step until they finally, that 5 steps up and they're on our team and contributing at the NHL level. So it's a process. It's not a real quick race. That's what we try and tell these young players too. Don't think tomorrow is a draft and then, in 3-4 months, you're going to be on a hockey team. There's growth and development that goes along that process. And we have a great development team with Glenn Wesley doing our D and Chris Thorborn and Matt D'Agostini running the forwards. We have our own strength conditioning coach, our own power skating coach with John Stanbrook. We have a lot of guys that are on board with that development team that push these guys to get them to the level they need to get to make their dreams come true and really help our franchise organization get to the level we want to be at.
Tim Taylor, Blues assistant GM, with us here on the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. Tim, when you were drafted in 1988 by Washington, obviously things were different. And I know everything has changed, but what's the biggest change for an 18-year-old for when you were drafted that's as opposed to somebody who's going to be drafted tomorrow night?
Well, obviously social media has become one big thing, with cell phones. And I think it's just the tools that surround the young kids now that with again, the whole development team helping and pushing you, watching everything you do and making sure you're making the right choices to enhance your career. When I was drafted, you were kind of drafted and I went to the draft as Montreal, you were drafted. I didn't hear from the team for 2 or 3 weeks. And then I had a phone call that if you weren't home, you missed the phone call. So it was just a different process. But now, again, we're there every step of the way. We bring them in development camp right away. We evaluate them right away, get a handle on where their strength conditioning's at, where they need to be. We get them with a nutrition coach we have with our organization as well. So it's a lot of different things that go into it because, again, it's a business and we need our players that we draft to play in the games and again, in that 3 to 5 year period. So we're watching these guys and it's again, it's more closely watched and more tools to help the players now. So that's the biggest difference I see.
Coming up right after the draft, you guys will have your development camp from June 30th to July 3rd at Centene Community Ice Center. People can check out the camp schedule right now on the Blues website. Some of the names jumping out obviously will be the first-round pick or the picks from this year, but I named a couple of the other big names, the former first-round picks, Adam Juracek and Theo Lindstein, 2 of the defenders in the group. Lindstein's a name that's been jumping around. I think the expectation is that he's going to make the jump to the Thunderbirds for this next season. A name I've thrown out a lot, STL Sports Central's Mike Myers has done a lot of great job covering Lindstein. I guess give Blues fans why some reasons as to be why they should be excited about this young kid.
Well, he's a good young player. Obviously, he's got range and he can move the puck really well. He had 2 really good World Junior Championships under his belt now. He's played pro hockey over in Europe for a couple years, and he's had some real good growth. Obviously, it's been well known that the goalies and defensemen take a little bit longer to mature and be ready to play at the NHL level with there's gonna be a lot of growing pains. At the same time, he's a real good puck mover. He could skate and he takes up some ice with his wingspan. So again, they take a little longer, and we're hoping that he comes over, and he is going to come over. But I mean, we're hoping that he adjusts relatively quickly. It helps. He played pro hockey already. I think the Swedish league and the Finnish league are the closest things to the AHL when you're talking about pro hockey over in Europe. So we hope the transition is seamless for him. But again, we understand there's going to be growth with him, and there's going to be ups and downs throughout the season. And we'll be there to help pick it up and just make sure he understands that this is just part of the process.
Tim, a couple more things. Number one, what is it like for you to prepare for this draft with Alexander Steen? And it's now 2 years that he has been integrating himself into becoming the GM, but what's that process like for you and the staff?
Well, you know what? Through Alex, I'm getting to learn a lot too, because Doug Armstrong, again, I mentioned this, is one of the best in the business, and it's well known throughout the league. What he's done in the NHL with his career. So again, Alex and Alex is with Doug every single day, and the trickle down effect is working with those two, with Peter Chiarelli, Scott Mellanby, Al McInnes, and Keith Tkachuk. It's just a wealth of experience that you're learning from all these guys. So it's been a real good experience for me. That trickle down effect from Doug to Alex, and I get to learn a lot about being around those two. So it's been really good for me as well. Again, Alex has learned from the best, so it's been great experience for him.
Last one for me, Tim, just the logistics of going into a draft with only 3 picks. Obviously, a lot of good reasons to only have those 3 picks, but how has that changed your guys' job this spring compared to previous drafts, having such a small amount for the 7-rounder?
You're right. It is less preparing now, knowing that you have a first round, a fifth round, sixth round. But anytime that you can pick up the players that we did last summer with Broberg and Holloway and expend a second round, third round pick, you'll take that all day. So it's made our jobs at the amateur level a little bit, I wouldn't say slow, but it's not as exhilarating and looking forward to the second, third rounds. But the pro level, it's really helped our organization immensely. Obviously, bringing these two young, talented players into the mix with that young group is massive for our team and our growth and experience and moving forward with our direction of our future.
I know that you're always proud when one of the guys that you identify makes it to the NHL, but do you have a pick, not that you might have pounded the table for, but so you said, hey, I really love this guy. The Blues took him and he's wound up here. Do you have that pick yet?
Well, you know what, guys, I do a little bit of scouting when I'm watching our young players play, but I don't get to see players as much as our amateur scouts. They're out there every single day pounding the table for players that they watch and see. So at the end of the day, I'm going to make this, it's pretty vanilla, but it's every guy we draft I pound the table for after, because you learn all about them, you grow with them, and you want them to succeed. So they're almost like having your own children once you bring the organization. It's a lot of fun watching them play their first pro game, score the first NHL goal, be a part of the 2019 Stanley Cup team. And really, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about on my end.
So, man, the development camp must be a big thing for you, getting to get your guys' hands on these guys in that short of a period of time, put them in jerseys and actually see them on the ice with your own two eyes in your controlled situations. That's got to be big for you guys.
It is, and what we've allowed with our whole development team is going out and watching these players, and then also interacting with their coaching staff, their training staff, that they're at their club teams. And so we have a real good relationship with their teams that they're on already. So we, again, coming in now, we're just really reevaluating where they are, seeing how that from the projection from last year goes to this year and the future. So again, we just keep trying to push and understand that this is a process with these players. And it's like, it's like having your old kids grow. You're so proud when they graduate from one thing to another. So that's kind of what we're at with these players as well.
You're getting ready to you need another Stanley Cup. You've got 3. It's about that time now. It's next year. You need to have another Stanley Cup party, right?
Oh, that would be tremendous. Yes.
Tim, great stuff. Thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it. Good luck at the draft, and we'll catch up again soon.
Oh, thanks, guys. Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you. That's Tim Taylor, St. Louis Blues Assistant General Manager and Director of Player Development, joining us here on the Randy Karraker Show. And you nailed it at the end. And if the Blues were in a position right now where somebody came to them and said, yeah, we'll give you a couple of first-round picks, one each for Holloway and Broberg, the Blues would hang up on them. Yeah, their draft took place last summer.
And honestly, I think there is a point where if you're an amateur scout, I wonder if they were, and it's the 19th pick, so you're not gonna, you're trying to maybe uncover that diamond in the rough. I wonder if there's, some synergy where it's like a lot of these guys have to spend hours on the second round and third round pick. Their ability just to hyper focus all that amateur scouting into the first round prospects and really sift through those guys that are going to be available at 19, that could also be a benefit to having only 3 picks in a 7-round draft.
Well, and a few years ago, to the point that you're making, when the Blues were scouting Colton Parayko, they wouldn't send their own people in to watch him anymore because they didn't want anybody to know that they were going in to look at him. They were so excited about him and they wanted to take him, and they didn't want other people saying, oh, the Blues are here. So they basically scouted him from afar and then wound up with him as a 3rd-round pick.
And I think the thing you'll notice in drafts like the NHL a lot of times is that the difference in players will fall off a cliff after the top 10 picks. And so having a amateur scouting group that can now, instead of hyper focusing on like 3 or 4 first rounders, can hyper focus on 12. And because there's not a lot of difference between who's going to be available at 14, who's going to be available at 24. And so this could really be a benefit. I wouldn't be shocked if they kind of unearth an unexpected contributor with a mid-first round pick this season because of the ability for this group, who clearly know what they're doing. I mean, if you go through their drafting, he said it again, usually it's more like a 4 or 5 year split. And yet Jimmy Snuggerud was up in 3 years. Dalibor Dvorsky was up in 2. I know it was only 2 games, but so he'll be up more in full-time in 3 years. Otto Stenberg moved from Sweden to the Thunderbirds last year. Lindstein, also another one of 2023 first-round picks, who we were just talking about, is moving as well. And then there's a lot of talk about Juracek, who was their 2024 first-round picks. So, I mean, they are moving these guys up fast in an impressive fashion. This group knows what they're doing. And we're not even talking about the fact that the 2021 pick before Jimmy Snuggerud was Zachary Bolduc.
Pretty good.
5th-round pick in 2020.
You like to have him.
Matthew Kessel.
Yep.
Jake Neighbors was the first rounder in that draft. They're killing it.
Yeah, they are. They're really drafting well. Hey, if you're looking for lunch today, it's Gumbo Day at Fenton Bar and Grill. Thursday is Gumbo Day. I know a guy who goes to the Fenton Bar and Grill for their gumbo every single Thursday. It's just so good. You can get a cup of the gumbo for $5.95, a bowl of the gumbo for $6.95. You want to have a soup and wings special that's absolutely wonderful? Yes, that delicious, tasty gumbo along with the unbelievably delicious trashed wings. What a great combo that is. Go on in and say, hey, Randy told me to order a cup of the gumbo and a half a dozen of the trashed wings. That will be a great lunch for you today at the Fenton Bar and Grill. And they have a great menu all the time, not just on Thursdays when they have the gumbo, but if you want to have a fantastic portobello mushroom sandwich or the portobello mushroom strips, absolutely tantalizing. I am a big fan on a day like this where it's really warm of a salad, and their chicken Caesar salad is absolutely spectacular with fresh red onion, Romano cheese, crouton, Caesar dressing, and crisp, fresh lettuce. That Caesar salad is fantastic. The chef salad with the ham and the perfectly seasoned smoked turkey and the red onions and the tomato and shredded cheddar and croutons. It is amazing. And of course, as you saw there a moment ago, the trashed wings with the signature golden sauce, hard to beat. If you're looking for a fantastic place to have lunch, maybe you want a late lunch today, maybe you're playing golf this afternoon and you want to have a place where you can stop by and have a great time. If you're looking for a place to watch the Cardinal game, it's the Fenton Bar and Grill. Oh, by the way, their happy hour is a lot of fun. It takes place from 2 to 5 p.m. and you can get 6 appetizers for $6 each. Mini tacos, fried dill pickles, breaded spicy cheese curds, the portobello mushroom strips, the pretzel bites, and the fried green beans, all just $6 at the Fenton Bar and Grill, 2 minutes away from the soccer park on Rudder Road in Fenton. It is the Fenton Bar and Grill. Learn more at fentonbarandgrill.com and tell them that Randy sent you.
All right. And I just want to give you some credit. No, okay. I want to give you some credit because you were cordial to a man who raised a cup in a Red Wings jersey. And I respect you so much because I know that is not an easy thing for you to be cordial to a man who wears a ring with the Red Wings on it. So especially a 1997 Red Wing.
So my buddy Brett Hull won a cup with the Red Wings,
true.
right?
That's
and
true.
When Hully wins a cup with the Red Wings, what are you going to do? We know that this is more important to him. The Blues winning a cup with him just as a former Blue was better than him winning a cup as a member of the Red Wings.
Does the Red Wings team that it was that he won the cup with have anything to do with it?
Kind of makes you throw up a little bit.
Okay, that's all I was saying was the fact that it was a late 90s versus the early 2000s Red Wing.
Yeah.
Hawley's with early 2000s, Taylor's with the late 90s.
Yeah,
a little bit of a difference. So you know what? I'm proud. I'm proud of you.
Though. Thank you.
That was a great job.
Yeah. And I never said punch a Red Wing. I just said punch a Red Wing fan.
Rooster from Birmingham. Blues young talent is much more promising and exciting than the Cards young talent. I don't agree with that statement because not necessarily that I'm not excited about the Blues young talent. I obviously am. A lot of these first rounders have a lot of reason. And listen, again, Mike Myers is killing it on STL Sports Central with the Blues prospect coverage. Go to stlsportscentral.com, read his articles. He's absolutely killing it. I don't think he has the mask, but I think he has the music, which is really the ominous tone to it. But, I mean, if you take away the injury factor, there are 5 or 6 pretty good starting pitching prospects for the Cardinals, and there's 3 or 4 pretty good hitting prospects, including J.J. Weatherholt. Chase Davis is in there as well. Leo Bernal has been talked about like a great catcher. Jimmy Crooks, also a pretty good catcher, even ahead of Leo Bernal. I didn't even mention Tink Hence. I wasn't even including him in like the starters. So like there's a lot of Cardinals prospects to get excited about too.
Absolutely. I think these are franchises on parallel paths.
Yes.
It's amazing how similar they are. And I'm with you. I think the excitement level for the Cardinals, for me, matches my excitement level for the young players on the Blues. Okay, let's get to and we've got one other Blues thing we're going to hit on in a moment from our buddy Jeremy Rutherford. But we do need to talk about what happened last night with City SC because They got down early 3-0, and then you get a couple of tallies from Betcher and Klaus. By the way, I had a bet on Klaus at plus 800 to score 2 goals. Thank you, Santa. And then in the second half, they didn't register a shot or generate any XGs for the first 30 minutes, and they wound up losing the match on the pitch by a score of 4-2.
Yeah, 90-minute game, and they completely just abrogated any responsibility to win the game for 55 minutes of that. First 20 minutes of the game, nothing. No defense, completely terrible. You're turning the ball over for the third goal. You're getting completely cut apart for the first 2 goals. Pathetic. And then 30 minutes to start the second half, absolutely zero offensive progress. You get back in the game. It's a 3-2 game at half. It's a 1-goal game. Not a big deal. And you do nothing in the first 30 minutes of the second half to pressure the Orlando City defense or goalkeeper. That was extremely disappointing. This team is back to where it was in the lowest points of 2024 or 2023, which is the defense can't consistently shut teams down, and the offense's only a chance to score is by overloading the back end, which means, or overloading the top side, which means that the back end is going to be left exposed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, can you win games 4-3? That's it was almost the exact equation last night. It was 3-2. And it's like, okay, the only way you get 3 points is if you win this one 4-3. Can you score 4 goals without letting them score a fourth themselves? And no, the question is the answer is they couldn't. They lose this one 4-2. And that's a little bit disappointing because this team can't play or can't find the balance they need to win games.
Is the physical ability there with this group to be a winning team, or do they need to upgrade the talent level again?
They need to upgrade the talent level this summer. There's no doubt about that, but they also do need to have healthy players. And part of what is changing and what will change this analysis is that Edward Leuven in the midfield and Henry Kessler on the back line.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Kessler's injured. Leuven is a combination of injured and unavailable because of family things, to the point where he can't really rehab, to the point where he can get back from injury, or when he does come back to play, he's really liable to get injured because he's not 100% in shape and isn't able to train as much. So his muscles aren't at that peak point. So he's going to get hurt more often. So you're missing your 2 best outfield players in Kessler on defense and Leuven in the midfield, which means your midfield's bad, your defense is bad. And when 2/3 of your team is bad, you're not going to win very, very many games. It's just there's a lot more complicated things to it, but the cut and dry is the best players are hurt and they don't have good enough depth to adequately win when they don't have their best players.
It's pretty hard.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. They're gonna have to add some players in the summer. They're gonna have to spend some money, and they're gonna have to turn things around, or else I don't think we've seen the last personnel move from the front office.
Oh, interesting.
I just you have to, if it's not the players,
Mm-hmm.
and you keep changing the coach,
That makes sense.
there's a third rail.
Yep.
You're gonna have to grip and just kind of
Yep.
withstand the shock of it all.
Yep. Interesting. All right, I want to go back to hockey, and we've got a few minutes left here. And oh, by the way, Cards Central coming up after the Cardinal game today at 1:15 on STL Sports Central. We've got Cards Central 365. Want you to tune in for that. React immediately after the Cards play the Cubs in the finale of the 4-game series. All right, Matthew, in the National Hockey League, there are 736 players.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 3 years, Jordan Kyrou has finished 25th and then 36th and then 16th in goals of those 736 players in the whole league.
Yep.
25th in goals, 36th in goals, and then this past season, 16th in goals. Jeremy Rutherford has a piece up about the Blues possibly trading Kyrou before he has his contract, his no trade deals kick in. From your perspective, and you analyze this stuff, not that you want him traded, but why do you think people are so anxious to get rid of Jordan Kyrou when he's clearly one of the best goal scorers in the league?
Because of the conversation we always have when we talk about hockey, which is the difference between a regular season player and a playoff player.
Mm-hmm.
That is the entirety of the conversation we're having right now.
Okay,
because everyone
before
knows
this year, the highest scoring Blues player in the playoffs when they lost to Colorado was Jordan Kyrou.
That's fair. I think it's not necessarily the scoring aspect in the playoffs that people are talking about when they talk about his playoff performance. I think it's the 200-foot game and the physicality factors and the toughness factors. I think Cam Jansen earlier today on the Lou Info Network was talking about some very animated times that Kyrou was getting bounced off the wall by much larger defenders in this one in the Jets series this past year. And I think that's what people are doing to mention the playoffs, because you can't make this argument by looking at his regular season numbers. The list of players who have had 3 straight years of 30 goals and 30 assists is very small. And almost all the players on the list, other than Jordan Kyrou, are all-stars perennially and MVP caliber players like a Leon Draisaitl. So you can't argue with his production in the regular season to the point where I wouldn't make the Noah Dobson trade in any way, shape, or form. And honestly, that's where I stand, because he's getting more playoff experience. He's hitting his physical prime. He's hitting a mental prime that I think we're starting to see with a guy who developed that part of his game, the physical and mental toughness, this past spring for 6 months. And yeah, I could be wrong. He might not continue it and build on it. But if he does, then trading him would be a mistake, because you'd be getting rid of a player right before they hit their physical prime while they're one of the top scorers in the league and growing into their ability to be a playoff player. Because no matter what you say, you can give me the rah-rah hockey players all you want. I'm not going to sit here and say that the only players that can win the Stanley Cup on your roster are 6'2", 210 pounds, and are going to throw 150 hits a year. I refuse to believe that all these teams have skillful players that, when it comes down to it, are going to weave through some defenders and score a goal when you need it. That's necessary as well. You can win with the hard nose, just slow it down and muck it up. But I think there's a reason you started seeing Armstrong pivot to that more speed. And yes, they have pivoted away from that, but adding more speed was a conscious decision for a reason, because it adds a game-changing aspect that the Blues didn't have even when they did win the Cup. And I just think giving up on Kyrou because he hasn't shown that he's a playoff player yet at this point in his career would be a little bit too early of a move.
Would we say that Connor McDavid is not a playoff player?
I think there's people who would say that. I wouldn't say that.
Now, I love this string of chats from number one Blues fan, and I agree with you 100%. Jordan Kyrou should not be traded. 35 goal scorers don't just grow on trees. The moment you trade a goal scorer is the moment you're looking for another one. 100% right there. Would the Blues have made their second half of the season run without Kyrou on the line with Shannon Holloway? Not a chance. And that's the question I was going to ask, is how many Stanley Cup champions have you seen that didn't make the playoffs? Because
zero.
A guy doesn't have a chance to be a playoff player unless he performs to a level in the regular season at which he can get his team to the playoffs. So I would be wary if I were the Blues of trading Jordan Kyrou. And by the way, I'm one of those people that has faith in Doug Armstrong. Why would Doug Armstrong sign this guy to the contract? He's only played 1 year under the contract. Why would Doug Armstrong, who's pretty good at what he does, sign the guy to the contract and then move him after the first year that he played under that contract?
Yeah, and that's another thing. It's such a good contract for so long. And again, Jordan Kyrou just turned 27 on May 5th. Quite, again, physical, mental prime. By the way, I also want to point out, while these last seasons have been 30-30 seasons, which has been extremely impressive, his career high is still 4 years ago when he had 27 goals and 48 assists, 75 points. He actually hasn't topped the 75-point mark since then. But nonetheless, I think it just shows you there's still room in the ceiling for Jordan Kyrou to grow. And I think I think just the prime is an important factor, because if he's listed right now at 6'1", 195, now is about the time when physically your body now is perfectly built to add 10, 15 pounds of muscle, but also now is the time when his mentality has the chance to change, and someone's going to get to him and say, we're working out this summer. We're changing what you're eating. You're instead of 6'1", 196, you're going to be 6'1", 205. And just that little change in a year completely changes what you see from him on the ice in a playoff series next summer. It's not a guarantee that it's going to happen, but the potential is there, and you have to deal and make this deal with inside of the potential.
Yeah. When the Blues let Brett Hull leave as a free agent, the front office's argument was, yeah, you can't win with him in the playoffs.
That was when who left?
When Brett Hull left as a free agent.
Okay. Jesus.
Then he scored the game-winning goal in the Stanley Cup Finals the first year he was gone. Pretty amazing.
But what's crazy about that is, and see, this is why that's just so flawed, because was Brett Hull the reason that was it Casey who was sleeping in the goal?
No, that was an unbelievable shot. Steve Yzerman. He wasn't sleeping. No, he had no chance.
But my point is that was Brett Hull the reason they got bumped out in the playoff series?
Gretzky gave the puck away.
Yeah, Gretzky's the one who gives the puck away. It's just but let's go through all the series and playoff losses that they had when Hull was on the team.
Oh, he was awesome.
Is he the guy? Is he wearing the goat horns in any of those series? Is the reason they couldn't get over the hump, or was it a lack of goaltending, or a lack of depth across the bottom six, or the defensive pairings?
It was Brett Hull.
It wasn't Brett Hull. Ridiculous. Yes. I will say, number one Blues fan, the Blues are not going to get John Tavares. Come on now.
No,
I don't think that's going to happen.
No. Hey, don't forget our STL Sports Central postgame show this afternoon is going to be brought to you in part by Hot Shots. They invite you to come out to one of their locations and celebrate their 35th anniversary. Congratulations to Hot Shots on 35 years. St. Louis home for all the games all the time since 1990. Go watch the Cardinals this afternoon. Find your nearest Hot Shots at hotshotsnet.com. Great job, sir. And are we going to be talking about a Cardinal victory tomorrow morning?
I don't have a lot of confidence in that.
The Cardinals are going to win. Go Andre Palante.
We'll be talking about a solid split series, which means we know as much as we going out as we went going in, which is not what I wanted at all.
Goose Gossage would call you a negative blanker.
Yeah, he'd be right.
Yeah. So
it would hurt though if he said it.
Cardinals are going to win. Take 3 out of 4. Y'all, thanks for tuning in to the Randy Karraker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley with the great Matthew Rocchio. I am Randy, and thanks for joining us here on STL Sports Central. See you tomorrow morning at 10:02.